That writes fiction back at it with another reaction. We have some insight from Kendrick. He talks about as far as the diss track, Not Like Us, denies being angry after beefing with Drake and the interview with SZA. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, notification bells on so you don't miss when I drop a new video on the road to 5K. Let's go ahead and check this out. It's for Chig Smooth.
I know Chigs is in here recording this.
No Chig Smooth in here, right? So whatever you say,
you know Chig gonna have everything up there.
whatever you say, Chig's gonna be on YouTube with it, man.
Kendrick Lamar is now doing interviews as he sat down with Harper's Bazaar magazine. But obviously there has to be a little bit of a wrinkle with everything that Kendrick Lamar does. So this interview, even though it was for this magazine, it was done at the request of Kendrick by SZA. They get into mental health and motivation, and Kendrick says his actions are not motivated by anger, but understands that love and war both deserve to be acknowledged. Not that they represent him, but he acknowledges that they both need to exist in the world. And of course, he will be asked about.
In, what was it? Was it, I think, 616 in LA? He's all like, who am I if I don't go to war? So I think it's like that. It's like there's certain things where you don't have to engage. You don't have to engage. He could have straight up ignored it. He could have just went about his way and just not had done that. But it's crazy what that did the summer, leading into the summer. And so I can definitely understand what he's saying with
Drake and Not Like Us, and he would give his definition of what it means to him. What's up, y'all? It's your man Talkless World Report for the Chig Smooth channel. We got to talk about this. SZA didn't waste any time. As soon as they sat down, she starts off saying, I want to ask you about your mental health. Do you feel like you suffer from mental illness or experience it ever? Or do you just feel like you're in a multitude of feelings and you're not putting a label on it? Kendrick would say, I grew up with that term. I was hearing it when I was 5 or 6 years old. So you identify with it, but not as it? Then he says, my whole thing is, it's all experience. I say some shit on a record and identify with a moment, and then I don't identify with it anymore. That's just growth for me. All that shit is subjective. Then SZA says, it's good.
Which is interesting, which is what a lot, I think, the critique and what Kendrick's critique on Drake is the fact that, hey, you know, we do have these experiences, even like Mr. Morale and Big Steppers, even just all of Kendrick's stuff. What I notice is that some of the stuff aren't even things that really happened recently within the last couple of years or something. He's pulling from things from his childhood and able to make records from it and things like that. But even the stuff that are more recently, as far as in his adult life and talking about it, that's the dope thing about music, is that you can identify with a moment and then don't identify with it anymore. And this is different than what J. Cole was doing. You know, when we look at Kendrick Lamar saying this statement, it makes me think about like Drake. It's like he's identifying a moment for his whole adulthood. There's no growth there. It's just constantly this same couple of moments, you know, whether it's the life of a bachelor, whether it's, you know, pretended to be this mobster dude or anything like that. There's experiences that Drake feels, it seems like Drake is stuck in, and that's where the whole, you know, where's the man, because I only seen the boy, you know, type of thing. When it comes to J. Cole, because people can be like, well, that's hypocritical, you know, how are they giving grace to Kendrick Lamar and feeling about a certain way in the moment and then don't identify with it anymore? And why that same grace was it given as far as the J. Cole, whether he was changing his mind and wanted to go at it at the moment and then being like, nah, you know, that's not me. And then, you know, then it was like he came back. It was just all like, this is the reason why. But if I were, you know, don't test the pin type of thing. And I think that that's what is different. It is okay to change your mind and not identify with something, you know, as far as in J. Cole's sense. In Drake's sense, he is constantly in this moment and not identifying with it, not giving himself any growth. So when I think about that and I look at all three of them and why things are playing out the way that they are and why certain people have critiques with what J. Cole was doing, it's not the fact that he changed his mind. It's more than that. With Drake, he stays in this particular moment. So that's dope.
Self-therapy, which Kendrick replies, I think it's going back to my inner child, right? I was trying to understand myself, trying to find people I could relate to, how to identify myself outside myself. It sounds crazy to a lot of people. I really can see myself out of my body. When I do that, I have no judgment towards it. It's too many eyes on me to not remove myself. That shit is scary to anybody else. Which SZA focuses on and asks, are you scared? And he would say, no, because I've learned that I can't identify with my performances on stage. I can't hold my true whole identity to that person who's on stage. Because if I did, that means I would judge every movement, every time I mess up a lyric, every time I'm off key. It's too much to deal with. So I have to have a distance between the performer and the person I close my eyes and look at the ceiling with. I had to develop that tough skin at like 16 or 17 years old, not knowing it was not only for my career, but for myself. It's mentally ill for sure. And then the conversation gets a little more spiritual as before asking about
God. That is interesting. I wouldn't say it's mental illness to do that. I would say it is literally to protect yourself, because so often, people maybe do the opposite. They go into the person that they are in the performance, and you can't tell the difference. And they're just like, no, all of it's me. I don't think necessarily that there's anything wrong with it, but if you are able to, distance yourself and be like, okay, I can turn this on when it's time to perform, but this isn't all of me. This is an aspect of me. This is a person or a character I created, but this isn't my identity. I am performing. I'm a performer. That's an aspect of my identity, but that's not my whole identity at all. So I do like that. I don't think that is mentally ill. I think that that's smart to do.
SZA asks, have you done ayahuasca? And Kendrick says no, which she then replies to surprise, saying, what? I wonder how you're arriving at all these conclusions. I want to talk to you about your spiritual practices. How many spiritual practices contribute to your day-to-day? And he says, all day, every day. She says, all day is ceremony? And Kendrick gets personal, saying, ain't no BS, ain't no cliche, but I literally talk to God. Like, it's to a point where I'll be starting to think I'm going crazy, but then he has to remind me, no, this is really me. Well, if that's true, and he does talk to God every day, how was Drake ever gonna win a rap battle against God? Drake said 20 versus 1, but I guess he missed a very important person. But
that's funny. He's like, how is Drake gonna win? He's going against actual God.
It will continue. My early morning practice is that I have to run. When I started running, that's where I started to understand. There was this threshold of pain in the spirituality for me. I remember my shins was aching and I was like, I got 1 mile to go. Then I get whispers and downloads and start talking about shit that I want to know about. And next thing, I'm 3 miles in, 4 miles in. I wake up and do it every day. She says, loss of self, you have to break yourself. And he replied, I have to. And then SZA would try to dig deeper into his internal creative and spiritual practices. As she says, I'm grateful for the God.
Now, I want to get to him talk about Not Like Us. If y'all want to see the full-fledged video, then definitely. But this is what, this was cool so far, but I want to, talk about that.
Also tell me to shut the F up. What does not like us mean to you? He would laugh and say, not like us? Not like us is the energy of who I am, the type of man I represent. Now, if you identify with the man that I represent, SZA would cut him off saying, break that man down for me. And Kendrick was saying, this man has morals, he has values, he believes in something, he stands on something, he's not pandering. He's a man who can recognize his mistakes and not be afraid to share the mistakes, and can dig deep down into the fear-based ideologies or experiences to be able to express them without feeling like he's less of a man. If I'm thinking of Not Like Us, I'm thinking of me and whoever identifies with that. SZA says, now, can I say something else in that realm? Or you want me to get away from that? Can I ask you something else? And hilariously, he asked, is it mean? She says, no, it's more like, I thought it was really interesting that there was any consensus at all that you might be an angry individual. For me, I don't find that any energy that comes from you comes from an angry place. And actually, the last hour and change pretty much solidifies that it's almost from a monk-like place. So when you feel the surge of energy in records like that, where is the root? Is it anger? And he would say, I don't believe I'm an angry person, but I do believe in love and war. And I believe they both need to exist. And my awareness of that allows me to react to things, but not identify with them as who I am. Just allowing them to exist and allowing them. And
Wow, that right there is very, very dope. This video is sponsored by yours truly, Mr. Composition, the MC that writes fiction. And for the month of October on my Mr. Composition Music YouTube page, I am doing one-shot music video a day. So for 31 days, there will be a new one-shot video, and the goal is to get that channel to 1,000 subscribers. So make sure to check that out, subscribe, show some love to the videos, and drop a comment, man. Let me know that you came from this channel. But anyways, guys, back to the video. And sometimes I find it, difficult to do that and walk away unscathed. What I mean by that is, like, as a writer, like I was saying before, some of the tracks that he did, he has to go back into that time when he was small, or, childhood trauma or different things like that, to be able to bring those emotions to the forefront. And therapy, from what I've heard and different things like that, it can be very intense afterwards, because you're bringing all that stuff back up, and then you leave, you may feel drained, you may feel all these different things, and you may latch onto that. So what he's saying is that he can tap into that, but not be weighed down by it. That's the perform aspect. It's just like, all right, time for me to go into this thing. No, this isn't coming from anger. It may sound like it, because I'm able to tap into that particular thing, but no, this isn't from anger. So I thought I think that that's interesting. So that's what he thinks about as far as Not Like Us. And honestly, when you think about it from his perspective, yes, though it was a Drake song, I think that now that I really listen to a lot of, for one, his breakdown of it, but then thinking back and kind of looking at everything, it's almost like Drake was the avatar. It wasn't necessarily about Drake, even though he's mentioned everything like that. I feel like when Kendrick does stuff, it's usually bigger than that particular thing. That's why with the Watch the Party Die, there was confusion, because it was just like, it sounds like it could be about Drake, but it seemed like this was more in the general sense of what's going on in the culture in general. And so when looking at Not Like Us and him saying, like, these are the morals, the different things that I stand for, Drake is obviously the opposite of that. So let me break that particular thing down. But, if you're not like us, the moral stand-up person that doesn't pander and stands for something, I definitely understand that. And that's why Kendrick is, he is the Pulitzer freaking writer, but let me know what y'all think in the comments. It's Mr. Composition, the MC that writes fiction, back at it with another reaction. Make sure to like, subscribe, notification bells on, so you don't miss when I drop a new video on the road to 5K. Make sure to check out the description for my music, books, comics, and more. All right, y'all. Peace.